Hey everybody, Alex here, and welcome to another episode of Video Games Gaiden, the show where I bring old head YouTubers out of retirement. Today, I am joined by FabryLON. What is going
Speak,
on, man?
speaking of out of retirement, I don't know if this is going to be a one only, but hello everyone. It's good to be back for at least tonight. Thanks for the invite, Alex. Great
Absolutely,
to be here.
absolutely. Where you been? What's going on?
Uh, well, primarily working a lot since I moved back to Italy a few years ago and been very, very busy. So I'm not in the UK anymore. That's why there are no sirens or anything like that, if you're familiar with my videos. But it's primarily like, it's those moments when you have to take decisions. It's like when you making videos, it's a big time commitment, and I don't have that kind of time right now. So it's either playing a game or making a video. And to be honest, the choice is easy to me. So for now, you can call it's a long hiatus. I'm not um, excluding coming back eventually because sometimes I got ideas for videos, but then I say, nah, I don't have the time for that. So that's the long, sad story of my retirement for now.
I was gonna say it's not so much a hiatus; it's more like an extended sabbatical. Like,
Yeah, kind of.
but you're good otherwise. I mean, obviously you're still playing games. I know that through Discord, but and usually I don't ask people this, but besides the game du jour, what have you been up to gaming wise lately?
uh, well, again, the thing of being busy, not to be like a broken record, but it's I didn't have much time to play games other than the game du jour that took me most of like January or something. Even though, as we will say, that was not a very long game. It's just like not having enough time, and I sometimes I was just like too tired. Like, yeah, I'm not feeling it. Lately, I've been playing Trails through Daybreak 2 because I'm not missing Trails games, and I've been like 25 hours in or something like that,
So like
and
2%.
been something like that. I heard this is not a particularly longer one, but we'll see about that. Based on like how long to beat, which is not exactly very reliable, because it said like what's a good example? Trails into Reverie. They said it was like a 50, 60 hour kind of game. It took me like 115, so I don't know about that. But so far it's very good. I've been really, really enjoying this new chapter of the Trails series. But I mean, I've been with the series since the beginning, and it hasn't really let me down yet. And yeah, that's mainly what I've been doing gaming wise. Not much, but you know, quality over quantity.
Yeah, I mean, I had that with the third because the third took me like less than 30 hours. I mean, honestly, it's a dungeon
Mm.
crawler and I kind of just blitzed through those. Plus, it was on PC, so I had all the speed up stuff. And I was like,
Mm.
man, this is like the shortest Falcom game I've ever played, short of Oath and Felgana. It's like, I wonder how. 45 hours? How the hell are you getting 40? What, are you reading everything four times? Like, what is this?
To be honest, it took me like 65 hours to beat the third, and like fun fact, that's my favorite in the whole series.
See, that's my least favorite
Mm.
actually is second chapter, and it's not because of the story. It's just because I played it on the PSP without the speed up, without all that
Mm-hmm.
QOL stuff, and the
Yep.
animations are just so long. It's like, hey Estelle, can you do an attack? I'm gonna go to the bathroom, make a sandwich, and order an Uber. I'll be right back, and she's still not done.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah. That's how I played it because I wanted to download it on my PSP, but for some reason it didn't work. So I had to download the PSP copy on my Vita, and yeah, that's how I played it back in the day. But now, if I have to say my least favorite in the series, is without a doubt Azure. I cannot stand that game.
oh come on, man, Lloyd and the gang are so good.
I hate Lloyd.
Well, he is
I
kind.
cannot stand him.
I mean, I'll be honest though. Slight spoilers, so feel free to mute me until I do this. Do the jazz hands. Um, his brother is so much cooler than he is. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But that's the thing. Like I always thought about with the SSS. Now that I play those games, I would say, like, the main character should have been Randy. Again, he is also much cooler than
Oh,
Lloyd.
I
Lloyd
love
is just
Randy.
your Randy. Randy and Tio are the best characters
Mm-hmm.
out of the whole Crossbow games. The others, very generic anime stereotype
Well,
to
I
me.
mean, look what it is. It's like you know, it's like what was it? Fire Emblem, Birthright, and Conquest. I mean, two different families, each with same anime tropes. You know, you have the bouncy one, you
Yeah.
have the smart one, you have the cocky one,
Hmm.
you have the tsundere character, you have the emo one, you have the one that's really good but doesn't know she is, and then
I
there's
mean,
you who just stands around like this the whole time.
yeah, and not talking.
Yeah.
But that's the thing with JRPGs. I mean, I know they're all about anime stereotypes, but at times it's like when you have better characters. I mean, come on, you can. But anyways, it's just that's what I've been playing. But if you have you played the new Trails, the Daybreak
No, I'm
ones?
up to Reverie, and then I'll be caught up to
Oh,
Daybreak. I did Azure and Zero last year, and
hmm.
which one was Zero was the first one?
Yes.
That one bored me to death. Um,
Yeah, it's quite boring.
Not because it's bad, just I'm like I know all this already, and that's like that is the. I hate to say it because this isn't me gatekeeping, but you know how it's like with the Marvel movies, if you watch them out of order, you miss half the information.
Yeah.
With the Trails games, because they came out here out of order, everybody looked up all the information. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I already know about this. I already know what's going on with that. I've already seen Tio. I've already seen Randy. There's no surprises, you know?
Yeah, because most of the informations are out of the first two Cold Steel games. They gave you so much about Crossbow already.
Yeah. I mean, and that's really that's not what killed it because I really enjoyed Azure, but I enjoy the battle system sped up, of course.
Hmm.
But but I think having that extra flavor really helped me appreciate really helped me appreciate Lloyd more. But just playing the first one, I'm just like it's like retreading the same territory, and it didn't feel like I was replaying a game. It felt like somebody was giving me an extended version of something I already read the Cliff's Notes version of, if that makes any sense.
Makes sense. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it does. Absolutely. With Trails, it really does.
and I'm a jerk. Obviously, you're still on your hiatus, but if you want to plug your socials, feel free.
But that's the thing also, like, I never really use social media and stuff for my channel. And like, it's just YouTube. So if you want to find me, it's just FabryLON on YouTube. And that's about it. Like, I never used Twitter, X, whatever it's called, and never use Instagram. It's just like never really cared about that. I mean, there's a reason why my channel is super small, so I never really tried in a way. But that's kind of the charm of it to me in a way.
Yeah, and I think that that's kind of what birthed me wanting to do this thing in the first place. I mean, eventually I'd like to get, and this isn't a knock, I'd like to get bigger people on here because there's times I'll mention a channel to somebody like, oh, I don't know that person. And then they're like, whoa, this person has like over 10,000 subscribers. How have I never heard about them? But by today's metrics, that's not a big channel. But to me, that's a decent sized channel. But I think
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
also comes up from the, hold up, the glorious days of the YouTube gaming community that we're used
Yep.
to. So, when you had like 2,000 subscribers, you were king shit, as it were. So,
Hmm.
I kind of hang on to that. And until the Raid Shadow
Bring
Legends
all
money
video
comes
response
in.
back.
Yeah, right? And give me
Yeah.
some of the Raid Shadow Legends money. I wouldn't mind. I have bills. Um,
Yeah.
but I do have three random questions for you.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and for you, I have a real special one. I actually sat down and thought about this one for a good 3 minutes before you popped on, so I
Oh,
think it's a good one.
okay.
So, from
Now I'm intrigued.
easiest to most complicated, first
Okay.
question up. In your line of work, you obviously have to travel a lot. What is
Hmm.
one place you visited where you've done something so stupid you cannot believe you did that?
Okay, that's a good one. I would say, um, I I didn't have to travel that far to do something very stupid, to be honest. Though, in all fairness, I was still living in the UK at the time, so I had to travel back to Italy. So basically, I joined an archaeological dig in central Italy. And of course, like, you wake up very early, work through up till like 5 p.m. or something, and then you're like free for the rest of the day. And obviously, we were staying in a place where there was like absolutely nothing to do because it was like it's a super small village in the middle of central Italy. So there's like 45 people tops, and then us, this group of like mixed Italian, American, and something else kids from first year university students to some like early career and postdocs. So, and me. And basically, the only thing there was to do, especially at evenings, it was like going to the next village and drink, because that's the only thing you can do in these situations. There was a place called the Rocca Bar, which was kind of legendary in the area. And like, by the way, it was something that you can get cocktails for like between 1 and 2 euros. Like, very good stuff, super, super cheap. And obviously, the problem is that when drinks are super cheap, it's a problem because obviously you tend to drink a lot. Basically, we drank like idiots, and then it was like 2, 3 in the morning, and we had to go back to our dormitory basically. And the guy who drove the van, who's like our supervisor, was like super drunk. And imagine like this, we were like driving a van or something in this very small, stereotypical Italian roads with no lamps or something like that. And we had Judas Priest, like
Oh, I love it.
super high volume. Imagine like it was all dark in the middle of nowhere with like breaking the law.
So like
Like
Clockwork Orange, where they're all hanging out of the car.
basically something like that with like there was like two of us Italian and three Americans, and we're like completely wasted, like singing Judas Priest, and then we arrive at the place like 4 in the morning, and we're like breaking the law, like this. That's just one thing you can do, like at the archaeological dig. So I would say that was pretty stupid because again, we were driving while being very, very drunk. So don't do that, kids.
Yeah, actually, my stupid story. I was in Milan of all places,
There you go. All stupid stories take place in Italy.
and I went to a bar and I bought a whole. I just discovered limoncello, and I bought a whole bottle of it from a bar. Like I literally went up to
Yeah.
the bartender and said, "Do you sell the whole bottle?" And he had to ask the manager if it was okay. He sold me the bottle. I went back to the hotel, drank it with a bunch of my friends, and then we decided to go exploring. We got locked out of the hotel on the roof.
That's awesome.
So
But FYI, you can get limoncello bottles in supermarkets. You don't have to buy directly at the
I
bar.
was in high school. I didn't know. I just
Yeah,
discovered it.
I know, but
I just discovered it. I discovered that the Burger Kings in Spain also serve Miller Lite. I had no idea about that either.
the more you know.
The more you know. All right, next question I got for you. And this one's a little bit more tricky, but not really. So,
Mm.
when it comes to playing games, everybody kind of has an unspoken rule, and some people even have weird gaming habits. What is one of your weird gaming habits?
Mm. I have to think about this. Like, do I even have habits? Ah, I'm not sure about that, to be honest. Hmm. Uh, there's just thinking out loud here. Like something that I've noticed is like most of the time before playing the PS4, like I wash my hands. All the like,
That's a weird one, kind of.
yeah, for
But
example, I don't know
sanitary.
why, but it's something. Yeah, but it's something that I do very often. So, but I noticed like before touching the controller with my hands, it's like, oh, let's wash it with. I don't know if it's just force of habits because I wash my hands very frequently because I have a dog. So it's again something that I do mechanically. But I don't think I have specific gaming habits. It's like, oh, before playing a game, I don't know, I have to lit up candles or something like that.
That's what I do. I light candles.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, we have a
I don't think so.
basic bitch, aka pumpkin spice, burning outside right now.
Oh, nice. Other than that, I cannot think of any other little things that I do. For example, like something that I will never do, like reverse psychology here. I will never eat while playing a game, for example.
Yeah, I never. No. Furthest I do is a beverage. That's it.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah.
All right, now the last question, and I'm really excited about this one. So I need you to
Okay.
come back with me to the 90s, to Alex's grandmother's house. Now, you're a friend of mine, and we're, 90s, we're like middle school, right? Hanging out. My grandmother meets you, she likes you, she hears you're from Italy, and she says, and mind you, this is also based on a little bit of a true story, I'd love to make you a nice pasta dinner. And of course, you're a guest. So you say, sure thing. Alex's grandma, Anna, sure thing, absolutely. But what you don't know is that my grandmother is not Italian, nor is she familiar with Italian cooking. So she asks you if you can help her. And of course, you absolutely agree, and you go with her into the kitchen. Now, what I'm about to tell you is all fact. My grandmother begins to boil the water. She does not put salt in it. She pulls out dry pasta from a box, breaks it in half, drops it into the pasta water. You shiver a little bit at this notion. You then realize not only is she letting it boil in the water, presumably to al dente, she's exceeded al dente, and it has now been boiling for 35 minutes. You look a little shocked, a little peculiar, wondering why I ran into the other room giggling, and you try to be polite. And then my grandmother says, oh, I almost forgot the sauce. And you think, thank God, maybe a nice marinara will save this. You see she pulls out tomato paste. You're like, okay, she got one thing right. But then you see she pulls out ketchup to fill in the rest. Now, dinner is served. Do you eat it? Or do you pretend that you are so full from an imaginary snack you had before you came that you don't touch it?
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome.
And this is all true. This is how
me.
my grandmother made pasta, by the way. This is why every time she said we're making spaghetti, my mom said, let's order pizza. And this is my mom's mom. And my mom knew how to make pasta sauce the right way.
The only thing that troubled me about the whole thing was the ketchup part. That's a bit too much even for me. Because to be honest, I don't put salt in my water when I make pasta, for example, because I try to reduce salt, basically. Sometimes I had to break spaghetti in half. You do what you have to do.
Good thing I'm recording this.
But I've been told by many people that I'm not a typical Italian, so here's some proofs of that. Knowing me, I'm pretty sure I will try regardless, because, again, try to be polite, try to make a good impression on your grandmother. It's like, let's show that I'm a very good friend and all of that, So I wouldn't make an excuse as like, oh, this is not the Italian way, so... again, I'd probably try it and probably like, this is delicious,
This tastes oddly sweet. I don't know why.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder why.
No,
But yeah,
that's what she used to do. She'd use tomato paste and then she'd add Heinz ketchup to it, and that was her marinara
oof,
sauce. And then one
yeah,
day
that's
she
a bit
tried to
too
make
much.
bolognese, and I was like, okay, like, I mean, mind
Hmm.
you, my mom when she moved to New York City, she got exposed to like I'm gonna say real cooking and like international cooking. So my grandmother told her she was gonna make bolognese, and my mom told me when this happened, she was like, "Oh, okay." So she goes over there and she goes, "Why is there only ground beef? Where's the lamb? Where's the where's everything else? Mom, you're doing it wrong."
Where's the rest of it?
Yeah, so ever since then, anytime my grandmother said, "Oh, I'll make Italian," my mom was like, "No, no, no, like come over here, come
We're
like no,
good.
no,
We're
no."
good.
And I was like, "You grew up with this?" And she's like, "Yes, I grew up with this." She's like, "Ma
That's
can make a
amazing.
meatloaf, Ma can make a ham, Ma can make a turkey. Ma makes killer scallop potatoes. Do not have her make you pasta, ever. It's mush."
Well, to be honest, like once when I lived in Nottingham during my master, I had to cook pasta in the microwave. So
Oh,
because that was the only thing I had. So let you imagine.
oh, how'd it come out?
Yeah, not that good. I tried only twice, and after that, it's like, well,
You didn't even get a
let's
thing.
try something else.
It didn't even get a third strike.
No, no. The second you're out.
My God. Okay. All right. Excellent. That's so exciting. But speaking of pasta that came out pretty poor, even though
Hmm.
initial concept was great, Bioware. Um,
Yeah.
how did you initially discover Bioware? Because I came across them. Truthfully, I actually played Baldur's Gate, not realizing that was them back when it was
Hmm.
new.
Kind of the same thing. I the first Bioware game I played was this bad boy here because like out of context, before I started recording, I told Alex, oh, I was a bit late because I had to grab some games, and there you go. Um, this is the first Bioware I ever played.
Oh,
It's my
nice.
original copy of Baldur's Gate 2, and just like you back then, I had no idea BioWare made this game. I played it and it looked incredible for the time because I think this is 2000 or something
Yeah,
like
it's like
that.
early
So
2000s. Yeah.
yeah, something like that, 99, 2000, I think. And obviously back then I was playing like PlayStation 1 and to see those graphics, I was like, oh my god, this is the greatest game ever. And the first time I played, I didn't go far because it's a pretty complicated game, especially for me back then in middle school. And I still remember a friend of mine like saw this and was like, "Oh my god, I need to kind of emulate and pirate the game." And the amazing thing that really dates this and kind of dates me is like this thing. If I remember correctly, let me check. Uh, yes, it's on a DVD,
My
which for the
pearls.
time, exactly, for the time was incredible. He was like trying to copy on CD-ROMs or something, or floppy disk or something like that. And he was like coming like, with a stash of like 10 CDs. But then I give the game another chance a few years later, and I almost finished it, and then I kind of lost interest, and I never actually finished Baldur's Gate 2 because again, to be honest, I never liked this type of combat system from like Western RPGs. That
Mm.
it's too much Dungeons and Dragons for my taste. But yeah, this is my first experience with Bioware. Even though again, back then I had no idea what Bioware was. It was just a cool game to me.
Yeah, and see, like what drew me to the original Baldur's Gate, because I played that before the second one, was because I'd heard about Dungeons and Dragons. I think it was like third edition or 3.5 or something back then. And I'd always wanted to play it, but I didn't know anybody who played it. I mean, now obviously it's a lot more popular, and I have played D&D online with a group of people, and I've gone through I think 2 or 3 campaigns, and I actually discovered I don't like tabletop RPGs because they are
Mm.
just too slow. And that's because of the people you play with, right? And that's not a knock. Like I've watched Critical Role and all that stuff. Of course, it's
Mhm.
dramatized a little bit. Something like Baldur's Gate works because I am in control of the pace, right? But
Yeah.
when you have to deal with other players, everybody has to get a moment in the spotlight. And I just felt like I was sitting like this the whole time. And, and then somebody would be like, oh, like I stormed the gate. And I'm like, you idiot. I've been setting up this whole plan in my head for the past hour and a half. And now I can't do anything. Um,
Yeah.
and for me, it was very frustrating. But to your point too, playing the original Baldur's Gate, I love the graphics. I made characters and parties 1,000 times. It was so much fun for me. But the combat, my God, it made me so frustrated as a kid.
Yeah.
Like, and even Baldur's Gate 3, which is not Bioware, I loved
Hmm.
the. I personally played my character talking my way out of everything because I just did not want to go into combat. Like I maxed out, and I was a wisecracking sorceress, and that was my role, right? But I anything I could do to get out of combat, it's like, what if there's a bribe? I'm like, bribe him. I'm not doing the combat. Like it annoyed me to no end with all these stupid dice rolls.
The thing, like, I haven't played Baldur's Gate 3. I don't even own it because I think it's like PS5 and stuff, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not on. And since I don't have a PS5, no luck there. But it's funny that you mentioned trying Dungeons and Dragons properly because I remember, like, a few years ago, a good friend of mine tried uh, to get me into Dungeons and Dragons because she knows that I love fantasy and role playing game and all of this. And she had just discovered Dungeons and Dragons through YouTube, so she was super excited to be like, I'm gonna do the DM stuff, etc. We tried 3 games. The problem was all during the pandemic and stuff, so it was all on Discord and stuff, which is fine. But again, it's like, as I said, like the pacing of this type of game is awful. The only thing I remember is that just to make the game more fun to me, I had this character doing stupid stuff, like in combat. Because again, I was like the tank of the group, basically. Not really a tank, but always in combat. And I remember at one point I was fighting a sort of tree monster or something, and I got the upper hand, and I decided to throw this tree thing out of the bridge with a belly to belly suplex, basically, just to say like I'm gonna do this over the head. So that was amazing, and there was this girl's like, "What are you trying to do?" It's like you don't know. It's like it's a wrestling move.
It's like, do you know John Cena?
Like I haven't watched wrestling in like 20 plus years, but I kind of remember it's like this sounds like a good idea to do in this sort of situations.
Does your friend know video games though?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
was just saying because you said Leon Kennedy suplex. You know the do.
Yeah, exactly. I'm more of a like Chris Redfield punching rocks kind of guy, so.
That actually, this is so off topic, but it cracks me up because when I was playing the Resident Evil 4 remake and Katie was watching me, I was like, "Watch this," and I just ran through a whole room suplexing every zombie that got in my
Yeah,
way, like one
yeah, yeah, yeah.
by one after another. And she's like, "This is the most ridiculous thing." Like, wait for the roundhouse kick one through a
Yep,
window.
that's what I was always doing in Resident Evil 4, like run houses, like zombies with either Leon or Ada when I was playing on the Wii, because I haven't played the remake yet.
Oh, it's so good. The funny thing
Oh, I
is,
imagine.
afterwards, I told her, I go, and this is the guy from Resident Evil 2. She goes, that dweeby cop? That's him? Wow, he's hot.
Yeah, but have you watched any of the movies
Oh,
for like the animated ones?
not the Mila Jokovic,
Jovovich, yeah.
Jovovich, not hers. I saw the one that was supposed to be kind of Resident Evil 2, but it was really just a terrible fan service movie. I forgot the name of it. I think it was Welcome to Raccoon City.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's so bad, but in a funny way, I think also. Like I have a soft spot for those Resident Evil movies. They're so much fun.
I mean, I watched it with Katie, and I was just laughing the whole time because I was like, "Wow,
Yep,
they're
that's
literally
same.
taking out entire scenes from the games, but like in context, but not in context." And then I jokingly said to her, "The only thing that's missing is a rocket launcher." And what happens in the last 10 minutes?
What do you know? But that's the thing. There is an animated, like those CGI movies, which are actually, I think, sort of canon or something. They're more connected with the
Was
game
that what was
story.
that
And they're
Degeneration or something? I think.
the generation, Vendetta, Dead Island, something like that. And there is in one of those, there's Leon and Chris fighting like a bajillion zombies, and Leon fights like John Wick. It's hilarious. Again, the dweeby cops like fighting like John Wick. I was like laughing like crazy.
And then Chris Redfield's just Superman punching everybody through bricks and walls.
Exactly.
So besides Baldur's Gate, did you play like Icewind Dale or anything like that, or you pretty much just wrote off like that format of game?
Uh, I've tried Icewind Dale. I think actually on my copy of Baldur's Gate 2 also came with Icewind Dale actually, but I remember trying it and like as soon as I leave a town or something, like I was like assaulted by a horde of enemies and they kill me. I was like, well, time to do something else. But again, I'm not a huge fan of those games, even though for a couple of times, other than Baldur's Gate 2, here's another one. This is another proper Bioware game that I played a
Ooh,
lot of.
that's another good one. That one was a little bit better
That's a
in terms
really
of combat.
kinda, yes. It's still again too much D&D for my taste, but I really enjoyed the story in this. This is very good. I also played Neverwinter Nights 2. I like for saying that I don't like this combat, I play a lot of them actually because again, it's like with this Bioware or Bioware-esque type of games, you will always expect like a good narrative out of it. So, but other than those, then the big turning point for me with Bioware that really made me appreciate them, it's really this game right here.
I was going to say it's definitely Knights of the Old Republic, isn't it?
Of course it is, because this is amazing.
So, funny story, and I can't take credit for this because I actually stole it from another podcast. State of the Ark. So, what happened was, so basically, BioWare was trying to launch their own sort of sci-fi narrative RPG, which we eventually know as Mass Effect. But they needed money to do that. So they were like, what if we do license games? So they approached LucasArts saying, hey, what if, and they pitched a game to them. And instead, LucasArts came back to them and said, why don't you do a Star Wars game like this? And they're like, you're going to give us the license? And they're like, yeah. And it can be canon.
Wow.
And they were like,
that's amazing.
They were like, all right. Like we'd be stupid not to take it. But
yeah, absolutely.
But so how did you, I mean, obviously it's Star Wars. There's no introduction needed. But did you realize it was the same people as Baldur's Gate when you picked it up, or were you just like, ooh, Star Wars RPG?
The second, obviously. Because again, I didn't really follow like studios and stuff, with few exceptions. Like the studio was obsessed with as a kid was for the most part Capcom and Square, of course, like the usual suspects. With especially like PC gaming and more Western games, I didn't care as much in a way. And because what's the date of this? Again, I'm sure it's like early 2000s.
It's old.
And
that's all you need to know. It's old.
yeah, exactly. It's very old. But again, when I saw it, like, oh, a Star Wars games, cool for the Xbox. At least I have something to do with my Xbox because for whatever reason I moved from the PS1 to the Xbox, and after I played Halo, I was like, well, what's next? Then I saw this, I was like, oh, that's very cool. I love Star Wars. Back then I was like peak fandom, personally. And the game absolutely blew my mind because it's like we all know about it, I hope. And it's, to me, it's kind of like the best Star Wars experience I ever had, like overall. Because it's just like, maybe in the end of the day, it's a rather simple story. It's not that incredibly intricate, even though like the twist, it's very cool. You don't see it coming, but it's told so well that I was like absolutely in love with the characters. I finished it multiple times just to see like the differences. And if you think about it, even like the Paragon Renegade, like light side and dark side of Force, it's very simplistic because it's like it all depends on one decision by the end. What's gonna happen? It like if you be a douchebag the entire game and then pick the right thing at that moment, you're gonna be a good guy. So again, they haven't perfected that system yet. But besides that, it's such a good experience with such really good characters, and it's not even saying anything about the sequel, by the way, because I don't think they developed
No, it
it.
was
They just
Obsidian, actually.
yeah, exactly, and that was a really good game also.
So I actually found KOTOR. I didn't even know it came out. Was I a freshman? No, I was a yeah, I think I was a freshman in college at that point, maybe a sophomore, one or the other, doesn't really matter. And one of my buddies, he went to NYU, and at the time I lived downtown, so his dorm was like 4 blocks from my house. So he was moving in. It's move-in day at the dorm. He's like, "Hey, do you want to like come over and help me move stuff in?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And, we played Final Fantasy 11 together and everything, so it was like whatever. So I meet his roommate, and his roommate is like stereotypical like 90s new metal kid, the Janko jeans and all that stuff. And he comes in with a rig, right? Like huge tower. And I'm like, "Oh, you play PC games?" And he's like, "Of course I do." Like it's like, "Oh, pardon me, Trent Reznor, like my bad." Like one of those things. And I was like, "Oh, so what are you playing?" And he's playing Unreal Tournament. He's playing
Of course he does.
he's playing Unreal Tournament. He's playing Doom. He's playing whatever other boomer shooter was out at the time. And he goes, "And I'm playing Knights of the Old Republic." And I go, "Oh, what's that?" And he's like, "You don't know Knights of the Old Republic?" Never said Star Wars. He just kept calling it Knights of the Old Republic. And I'm like, "No, what is he?" He's like, "It's an RPG." And then he shows me the box. I go, "Oh, Star Wars RPG?" And then I
Yeah.
flip it over and I'm like, "Oh, this is from the Baldur's Gate people." And he goes, "You played Baldur's Gate?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "What'd you think of it?" And I said, "The combat is a piece of shit." And and he goes, "This is not that. You'll like this."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I never finished the original KOTOR, but what I was trying to do stupidly, 'cause, I mean it was college, I had time. I was trying to do a planet a night, which is a lot. Especially
Yeah, that's a lot.
especially with all this. I made it to the Wookiee planet and then I gave up. And I don't even know how far that is because it felt like I was playing that game for 6 years. Um, but what happened was Jedi Academy came out around that time too. And at this point, all of us
Oh
are
yeah.
friends. So he's like, "Hey, we should totally like clan up and play Jedi Academy together." And I was like,
Clan up.
and sure enough, we're like running around chucking lightsabers at each other. Then we're going to internet cafes doing Starcraft matches, Warcraft matches, uh, teaming up doing Diablo 2. Like it kind of just
Oh, Diablo 2.
all like literally
Dude.
KOTOR like got me a new friend, you know? And then we all
That's
graduated,
awesome.
nobody talked to anybody anymore. But regardless, like he opened me up to it. Like cuz honestly after Baldur's Gate 2, I kind of just forgot about Bioware. I had no idea they did
Mhm.
MDK2 or a bunch of action
Yeah,
games. I
that's
had
true.
no idea about any of it until
Mhm.
this one. And I was just like, "Wow, this is great." And then they vanished again.
Yeah. And they made like a Jade Empire.
Yeah,
But
but the next one I played by them personally was Mass Effect. And
same.
and what happened with me was by the time I played Mass Effect 2 was already out. And
Mhm.
I only went into Mass Effect and I never played KOTOR 2 because I heard it was a broken mess. So I never played that one. But I only played Mass Effect because at that point I was like, "Oh, this looks like ghetto Star Wars." And I was like, "I'm not touching it." Like they're trying to make Star Wars again, but not use the license. Um, and I didn't play Mass Effect 1 until the second one came out, personally.
The first time I played Mass Effect, it's when this came out. Like I had this
Oh, the trilogy.
trilogy, yeah, on with some of the DLCs and stuff for the PS3, and yeah, it's like to me, Mass Effect was a sort of like a religious experience kind of game because somehow like I heard about it, but I didn't like watch videos or stuff on it. I don't want kind of like it's something that I used to do. Is like I don't follow too much news and videos on certain games. I don't want to spoil stories and stuff. So I heard about this. It was supposed to be a big deal, quite a big deal actually. And then I said, well, actually, now that I think about it, I think I bought this in Canada. Like 1 year, I went to Toronto, and yeah, because it's half in English, half in French. This thing. So I brought it back home. On that day, I remember I bought the Mass Effect trilogy and Nier on the PS3.
Wow.
And yeah, no. Uh, and then I started playing Mass Effect, and after that, I was like, I absolutely loved it. Like, it's one of my favorite like gaming experience from the past 15, 20 years or something. Since like I haven't been so much into like a game series since the PS1 day, so that's I always like appreciate Mass Effect for that. It's like those experiences that you only have once per life, basically, and was able to have a second one with this phenomenal games. Like I love it. In fact, it was cool. Also able to buy the Legacy thing on PS4,
Yeah, I keep
which
wanting
allowed
to.
me to replay it.
I want to actually play that to see what they did to the first game because when I played the first game, like my friend was on Final Fantasy 11 was like singing praise about like, dude, you gotta play it. I went through the whole game. Kid you not, did not like any of it. I appreciate the dialogue. I appreciate the voice acting was phenomenal. I appreciate the
Mm-hmm.
choices. Like I felt impact on them, but I didn't get into the game until maybe the last 45 minutes because of the cliffhanger. And
Yeah.
I was like, dude, what the heck? Like complete 180. I did a complete 180. I was like, when's
Mm.
the second one out? And he's like, bro, the second game's been out for like a year now. And I'm like, what? I ran to
What?
Best Buy, I bought it, and I started it that same day.
And that like the jump from 1 to 2, it's like
Oh my
insane.
god.
It's
Everything,
so
the
good.
writing, the
Yeah.
graphics, of course, the dialogue, like
Yeah.
the fact that they got like John Voight, like actual like legit actors. Like what's his name?
Yeah.
Seth Green is in it. Like I was just like, wow, like
Hmm.
not to say I don't mean to discredit, but I was like, these are legitimate names I know. Like I didn't know, um, all the voice actors I know now, like, your Laura Baileys and,
Hmm.
all them. I didn't know any of them. I knew John Voight or Martin Sheen, rather. I think it's Martin Sheen. Um,
It's one of the two. I don't remember now.
they look the same.
Yeah.
But I was just like, my God, like the production value, like through the roof. And I really
Yeah.
appreciated how you were able to meld or mold your Shepherd either based on
Hmm.
your save data or they could ask you a bunch of questions to kind of shape it so you didn't have to play the original game.
Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, and I remember like the first time I saw like at the beginning of the game when there's like the elusive man like smoking a cigarette, I was like, wow, it looks already so much cooler than the first game. Because it's kind of the same for me. I think the first Mass Effect to me, it's the weakest game in the series, even though I like it already back then. I enjoyed it a lot, but again, the combat it's a bit iffy in a way compared to the rest of the series. And there are some like having replayed it pretty recently, there are some moments which are like not that good, like when you have to drive that
The
thing
Warthog
on a
or whatever
planet
it's
the
called.
Warhog. Yeah, that's not very exciting. um it's funny, it's like saying something excited. Like one of my favorite things to do in Mass Effect 2 was actually when you have like you can mine resources from a planet. And because I love the Galaxy Map music from the game
Oh,
so
that is a
much,
good song.
it's super relaxing. So I had that very high with the volume and just have this in the background. It was like mining and exploring planets that way. And I was just chilling like that. It's like, this is the greatest thing ever. With that music on repeat, it's like, I love that so much.
That is a good song. The one I always like, and it's a little bit more recent, is the overture from Deus Ex Human Revolution that plays over the menus. That's a good. I
Ooh,
mean, if you like
that's a good
ambient
one.
and synthwave, like you can do no better than that.
No, that's good. That's good. Yeah.
Who?
And then, obviously, I just want to finish the story, obviously, and then I'll play Mass Effect 3. And, spoiler, that's my favorite game in the series. I love Mass Effect 3 so much. Especially, like, the beginning of the game with the invasion of Earth.
Mm-hmm.
It's, like, probably the best intro stage I ever
Intense.
played. It's insane.
It's
With
so
that music
intense.
again, it's incredible. And I know the ending of the game is controversial, but back then I didn't really care. Like, I was okay with the ending. It felt fine. Because I think it's a lot of situations like, well, this is not the ending I envisioned. It was like, but overall, like, Mass Effect was such a, again, I already said it, but such a religious experience to me. Because after that, it's like, oh, I have to find every sort of Mass Effect media I can get. So I read a couple of the books, which are not very good. And I watched the animated movie they made. That's actually pretty cool.
Is
It's
it better
sort
than the
of, I
Dead
don't know if you
Space
watched
one?
it.
Because the Dead Space one was not good.
I haven't watched the Dead Space one,
Oh,
to be
don't watch it.
honest. So, okay. Uh, it's pretty cool, actually. It's a prequel to Mass Effect 3. It's like the story of Vega, the Marine.
Oh,
It's
cool.
like, because if you can explore his like the relationship with him, it tells him like he has his mission and all of that, and he screw up. It's all about that. It's pretty cool, actually.
Who was your favorite crew member?
Oh, Garrus, of
Yeah, of course.
course,
Easy.
of course. Like the three best characters from the series, like Garrus, Tali, and Rex.
Rex. I was gonna say Morden.
Oh yeah, of course, I forgot about him. How could I?
I love
Oh,
him. He
Morden is
reminds me
amazing.
of Johnny Five from Short Circuit. That's why I like him.
But yeah, of course. Like, how could I forget Morden?
His
Especially consider like in Mass Effect 3.
his side quest in Mass Effect 2 had me cracking
Oh, it's
up.
so good.
It's so good, but he's like,
Yeah.
it's like as smart as he is, he's an idiot, you know? Like, he's
Yeah.
like so socially inept, it's hysterical. But I think,
Yeah.
like, for me, it's like, while I felt like KOTOR, like, each character had a personality, and playing Mass Effect the first, every character had a personality, but they kind of fit a type. Mass Effect 2, Shepard was however you want it to be. Even the side quest characters are the side characters of the Normandy. Everybody had an individual story and personality. Like, they fleshed it
Yeah.
out so much. And I mean, you could argue they had a budget. Like, I think at this point they had the EA money, but
Yeah, you can
that
tell
comes with
from.
caveats,
Yeah,
of
we will
course.
talk about it, I'm sure.
But I think it was after Mass Effect 2 they went back into Dragon Age, which was kind of like a tip of the hat to the old Baldur's Gate crew. I
Mm.
appreciated those games more than the Baldur's Gate games because it was a happy marriage for me, at least, between the high fantasy and the Mass Effect, right? And then the second
Mhm.
game became a little bit more Mass Effect-y, and then Inquisition was just like full blown Mass Effect in terms of like battle system and all that stuff, and the way
Mhm.
like your team was set up. But you'd only played Inquisition, if I recall, right?
Yes, exactly. And it's actually funny how I played it. It was completely random, kind of like our game du jour in a way. It was again my own suggestion because I don't know if you remember. It was like on Leo's
I do, because
podcast,
I tried to
basically.
play it again, and I was like, I couldn't make it past the intro. I was like, I can't take this anymore.
Because it's like everyone has to suggest a game or so that the idea was like we'll play together and then we do a special episode of the podcast and discuss it. It's like, oh, that's very cool. I look at my backlog. It's like, what can I suggest that it's like easy to get? It's like, oh, there's Dragon Age Inquisition. I got that for a couple of years ago. I never touched it. Let's play Dragon Age Inquisition. And everybody agreed. I was like, fine, I guess we have to play it then. And I think I was the only one who actually played it to completion and actually
You
kind of
are. I
enjoyed
gave
it.
up. I gave up after an hour, but
Yeah,
I'd already finished it before.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Leo gave up, Bobby gave up, Fox gave up. I was the only one playing it,
you know
and
what?
I remember barely anything from that game, though it was very forgettable, to be honest. Even though I enjoyed it.
That's the thing, right? So Dragon Age 1, absolutely loved it. And then the expansion pack that they made for it was equally good. But this is where, for me, this is where BioWare started to get a little shaky. So at the end of the original Dragon Age, spoilers, you make a choice, and let's just say there's a sacrifice choice, and there's a fuck y'all, and then there's, I'm gonna get through this choice. So I had been playing a paladin the whole game, and I was like, well, according to the laws of role play, I know what decision I have to make. And that's the decision I made. Then the expansion comes out, and I'm thinking, oh, the legend of Alcender must live on. The game opens, there's Alcender walking down a pathway. I'm like, oh, this must be a prequel. It's an epilogue. How is he alive? The only explanation I could come up with was he was sleeping. That is it. Like the death and return of Superman against Doomsday. He went into a coma for a couple of days and then came back. That is the only explanation I have. Other than that, the game was fine. And then Dragon Age 2, and I'm only doing this because you haven't played them, plays a lot more like Mass Effect 2. So if you want that combat, phenomenal game. The characters I think are very interesting, but because it was going more Mass Effect-y, it was kind of alienating the Baldur's Gate Dungeons and Dragons crew. And then by the time you get to Inquisition, it's like a machine. And I think it was around this time they started to have people leaving the studio. Like the original team. Because the original team is like 3 doctors, like physicians.
Yeah, that's amazing, yeah.
This was a
I
side
always
hustle for
loved
them.
that about.
Like now YouTube is a side hustle. This was, let's make a video game studio as a side hustle.
Sure, why not?
And by the way, you have gonorrhea. It's like, no, it's like, this is not how it works.
I always loved that about Bioware is like 3 doctors just, again, why not make it a gaming studio?
And one of them backed out because his wife yelled at him. It's true.
Yeah.
She was like, listen, focus on your practice. You're not going to make money doing this. Well, let me tell you.
Well.
But yeah, Inquisition, I mean, I got it day one. I was very excited to play. I played with a bunch of my Final Fantasy 11 friends. We're all playing it together. And one of my buddies was super into it. I was kind of just like, this just feels like a checkboxy storytelling. Like, this is where I started to see the EA, right? Like, you have to have this, and this. And the Hinterlands area, I think, was my first 30 hours of the game because you're just running around aimlessly. And then the rest of the game is like 10 minutes if you just go from, quest to quest to quest. And that, to me, was a little disappointing, but I still enjoyed the game. But trying to go back and play when we were doing that little, like, book club thing, it felt like I felt, like, how sometimes you play an old game, it's like a 3D game, but the camera only goes left or right. It doesn't go.
Yeah.
That's what that felt like. And I was like, oh, no, I can't do this. I need the control, But
because the thing is, like, I own all 3 Dragon Age game, and I actually played a bit of the first one way before Inquisition on PS3, but I found it very boring, to be honest. But eventually I will like to play them all.
The combat
all
is
3.
very
I'll probably
slow.
play 2 first. Yeah, I didn't like the combat. Again, that's the thing.
If they did a remake of that, like a proper remake with like a more modern, I'm not going to say like a Veilguard battle system, but like a more Mass Effect Andromeda battle system where it's a little bit more, engaged. Do you think you'd be more about it?
I'm sure most people would like absolutely complain because, like, how dare you touch and change the original Dragon Age? That for a lot of fans, that's like peak BioWare. But if you make it more like Andromeda, like, yeah, I would probably play it since I absolutely love Mass Effect Andromeda. I think it, like, gameplay wise, it's kind of the best in the series together with 3. So, like, I'll be absolutely on board with that. But I know, like, most like fans will hate it. I'm sure.
So with Mass Effect 3 for me, right? And this is where, and I did a video on this a very long time ago. I finished Mass Effect 3. I enjoyed the journey. The ending, same as you, I was fine with it, but it's one of those endings where it's, and I use this analogy a lot. It's like an anime when they realize that they didn't get renewed for a second season and they only have 3 episodes left.
Yeah.
And they had to cram a lot of stuff in there, and they have to give you an option for which ending you want to go with. And let's be
Mm-hmm.
honest, much like watching The Walking Dead, you already know what the final thing is, but there's no good way to present it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or give you an option of how you want to present it, no matter what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So they put forth their best artistic effort and their personal interpretation as writers of how this should go. I finished it. The cutscenes were cool. I was like, wow, what an odyssey. This was great. And
Mm-hmm.
then all the backlash, and then they went ahead and said we rewrote the ending. And for me, with friends who work in the arts as animators and, illustrators and all these other things, I got so offended by this. I was like, as an artist,
Mm-hmm.
you are changing your own creation to fit the masses of it.
Yeah.
Pardon the pun. The masses of everybody else, right? And I was thinking, no artist in their right mind would do that
Yeah.
unless there was a
Absolutely.
significant amount of money behind it, not in their pocket, but by some overarching extraterrestrial actuary known as
Overlord.
EA that
Yeah.
probably told them to do
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely.
And guess what? Some people are like, "Oh yeah, the ending's better, but now the reputation is tarnished."
Yeah.
And then
Exactly.
you started to see an exodus of people leaving, which
Mm-hmm.
I would presume that's because they want to maintain their artistic integrity, which I totally get.
Yeah.
And to me that was kind of disappointing. And then Andromeda comes out, and I'm thinking this is the redemption. And you had played Andromeda a while ago. I only played it last year.
I played it
And
twice.
oh, you did.
From beginning to end, I absolutely love Andromeda.
So I did not like the crew, but I liked the story.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of Interstellar a lot.
Yeah. The thing is, I think certain characters are not bad. But the thing is, would you say the same thing if you only had Mass Effect 1? Like, all the characters were, like, amazing and fleshed out?
No.
Because, again, there you go. Because the thing is, to me, where, like, I lost all hope with Bioware, it's like, I really wanted an Andromeda trilogy. I wanted a Pathfinder trilogy. Because I absolutely love the idea, the scope of Andromeda, the idea of exploring a new galaxy. It's fascinating. It's like proper like Star Trek
Mm-hmm.
basically, and it's fun. I like it. And replaying the game, like when I did what was it last year, like the Mass Effect marathon, I played all 4 games one after the other, and it was like the greatest time ever. I realized like how much I like Andromeda also because of some of those characters. Now, like some of them are absolutely like bland and not very interesting. But it's the same with the original Mass Effect crew because you cannot say me that Jacob was like an amazing character, like
No.
or yeah, you see, it's kind of the same. But others were pretty interesting, and if they had more games to develop them, I'm sure they would have turned out fine. It's just like the story was also not bad. I think. Again, it was cut short in a way because people say there are no long-term consequences. It's like, yeah, sure, it's only one game. There were ideas like the if you destroy or not the factory, or when you find the old Angara AI. There were interesting things with potential consequences on another game, but when they again cut the game because like the overwhelming negative reception of like face models and like silly things like that. I
I
was like
remember that.
very annoyed, because again, with Mass Effect 3, talking about changing the art and everything, I experienced both endings in terms of like the old one and the new one, and I enjoyed both of them because again, the new one it's pretty cool, even though I kind of did the same ending both times, but like on PS4, I experienced the new ending, and it's very nice when it starts with ED saying like "I am alive," all of that. It's like, oh, that's very interesting. But also the original one, it's cool. I liked it, and it's yes, it might be one of those cases. It's all about the journey rather than the destination because again, what a journey! And Mass Effect 3, I would say it's almost well to me obviously perfect up until the last 10 minutes of the game basically.
Yeah.
Like when you're charging at Sovereign, it's like phenomenal. Like the final goodbye with your loved one and all of that. It's really heartbreaking, especially because by this point you're so attached to these characters. And it's something that unfortunately we will never have with Andromeda because I think there was potential with especially some of the crew members. Like the Asari one was a lot of fun. I
Mm-hmm.
liked her personality personally. The Krogan was cool. The human bionic woman was very like Cora. She
Cora
was
I
very
liked.
interesting
I really liked her.
because because all this thing like she's a human but she acts like an Asari or something. It's like and with the Asari making fun of her, like it's like a nice. Especially I like when you're driving around the Warhog or something, and you have the party members like making comments or fun of each other or something. Like there were some nice interactions between them. It's one of the cases if only we could have more of that, because I think there were plenty of good elements in this game. It's just again we know of the troubles they went through with it, like moving to the damn Frostbite engine, for example, or again maybe having less experienced team members. I'm saying this like I never worked in the video game industry, so I have no idea. But again, knowing how troubled the development of the game was, I think the final product was like more than solid actually. And again, it plays like a dream, to be honest. It's so much fun playing through Andromeda.
What I think was the biggest detractor for me in that game personally, the crew, some of them have redeeming factors, but I really didn't feel as invested as I did with getting to know, Rex and Garrus and all those guys on the
Yeah.
original crew, or my girlfriend Miranda. Like I love that character
Ooh.
for
Okay.
various
What about
reasons.
of course, but what about Miranda at Mass Effect 3?
Mass Effect 2 Miranda's my favorite. I'm sorry. Like,
No, no, I understand that she's a phenomenal, but the thing is, one of the biggest disappointments for me in Mass Effect 3 is how they dropped the ball with
oh yeah,
Miranda.
yeah, totally.
Like she's not even a playable character
No,
like in the party. It's like insane.
and she should have been. Like,
Of course,
I
instead of Ashley, because who the fuck cares about
yeah,
Ashley?
no, nobody cares. I mean, Ashley
She's
cares,
awful.
but but I think with Andromeda, where it like with the crew, I just really wasn't super invested in it, and then the whole thing with the power twins or the Wonder Twin powers and all this crap, and then it kind of just happens. And to your point, I feel like there was going to be more to it, but
Mhm.
and then again, this is where, as somebody who's worked for publicly traded companies and as somebody who's worked for private companies, you start to there it is. You start to
Yeah, I
smell
know.
when investors start to tell you to do things that don't
Hmm.
necessarily make sense. And unfortunately,
Right.
from the standpoint of a chief financial officer and a chief executive officer, they are, at least in the States, they are legally obligated to
Mm.
act in the investor's best interest. So if a bunch of investors who know nothing about video games come up and go, "We want to see multiplayer." Oh, okay.
Yep.
I guess that's what we're doing. The story's too
Of course.
complicated. Dumb it down. Okay. Okay. I guess we'll just rip up this whole part, like that sort of thing.
Hmm.
And I felt like Andromeda had a lot of lore in it, but they EAified it so much you had to go look for it. Like it didn't come to you naturally. Like you'd be walking
Mhm.
through the ship and somebody would be like, "Hey, by the way, the air conditioning's broken." I'm like, "I am not helping you, motherfucker. I am going right to where I need to go."
Yeah.
It wasn't like you would be involved with something and somebody would mention something in a conversation, then later on you find out it's a
Mhm.
side quest
Yeah.
and you can delve into
Yeah,
it.
it's not very organic at times. It
No.
feels forced. Absolutely. Yeah, as much as I love the game, it's like something that I've noticed. Of course, I'm not saying like it's perfect. It has issues, and one element that surprised me, since you mentioned it, it's like the whole thing with the twins at the beginning, like of your main character. It's like, oh, that's interesting. We'll see what they do with this, and it's almost nothing, even though there are elements. And to see like how much I love this game, basically after I replayed it for the second time, I say like it's starting write ideas for a potential sequel and stories. And I'll say there are ways that you can make the other writer play a part in the bigger story. Like for example, you are captured or presumed dead, kind of like in Mass Effect 2, and then you have your twin forming another party or something and go to your rescue or something like that. It's like that's a way you can do it. But it's also kind of cool, now that I think about it, how they integrated Andromeda with the original trilogy. Once you discover the truth of the Andromeda Initiative, I was like, this is really awesome. Actually, it's something though that you have to look for it again. It's a very long side quest throughout the entire game, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you did it.
I
It's
did.
the one
That's
that
the
you
only
have to
reason why I
find the
know what you're talking
pieces.
about. That was the one side quest
Oh,
I
there you go.
actually
There you go.
bothered to do.
That you have to find the pieces of the AI and something like that. And when you realize that the whole point of going to another galaxy is because they thought, spoiler alert by the way, but
Jazz hands.
it's that yeah, exactly, it's that the investors and the people behind this whole idea, they were aware of the coming of the Reapers, and it's like, if this is not going to work, we need a plan B, and the plan B was going to another galaxy. So I loved it. Such a wacky concept, but I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I played through it. Like, Andromeda is not a 10 out of 10 game for me. But when I finished it, I was like, that was a lot better than I was led to believe. And I feel like, I mean, I personally didn't play Anthem because at that point, my personal opinion with Bioware is it is not a studio, it's a brand at this point.
I agree.
And it's really sad. And I'm not saying, oh, it's a shadow of their former selves and all this stuff, because they all left. They all retired. They
Yeah.
went to different industries. It's not like Konami went into pachinko machines and now all of a sudden Konami's like, hey, we have this whole back catalog of video games that we can just farm out to other people and make a ton of money. Like the Konami that we grew up with is long gone. They pass it on to other
Yeah.
people to do. It's a brand at
Yeah.
this point, technically, right? So
Mm-hmm.
so Anthem comes out, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, it's from Bioware. The Knights of the Old Republic online game comes out. They say it's Bioware. It is for the initial. It's kind of like with the Castlevania Lords of Shadow. The first game they slapped Kojima Industries on it when all he did was just critique cutscenes.
Yeah.
That was
Of
it.
course.
I mean, I
Yeah.
love those games for what they are, like as a Castlevania fan, but
Mm.
with these games, I'm like, this is not Bioware, and I don't say that as a derogatory. They're literally just slapping it on it for marketability, because people
Yeah.
are.
Absolutely.
But now I feel like it's degraded to the point where it's like, let's see how they screwed it up this time, and
Yeah, that's kind of like the joke of the day at this point
yeah,
with
and
Bioware.
I truthfully I blame EA for the whole thing. I mean, because the crew left, people will do what they want to do, and I feel like at this point, EA has driven how many studios into the ground at this point,
Mm.
And I personally wasn't looking forward to Veilguard because it wasn't on my radar. But then I saw the combat and I was like, ooh, this looks like Mass Effect Andromeda, Mass Effect 2 style combat. I am interested. And then I heard about the writing, which is the hallmark of BioWare.
Yep.
And then I heard some of the dialogue, and I'm not touching on like the subject matter or representation or anything like that. I just listened to it and went, wow, this sounds forced.
Yep.
Like one
That's one way
take,
to say
let's
that.
hope it comes out okay.
Mm-hmm.
And rushed out the door. And by the way, we're over budget by $10 million. And
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I still own it, but I was like, wow, this is sad. Like the original Baldur's Gate games, they had no money and they made gold. And now, and I think it's the state of the industry, and particularly with BioWare games, their budgets are so ballooned, they can't succeed. It's doomed from the start.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because again, as I said, like since I don't own a PS5, again, I don't own Veilguard because I don't think it's on PS4, right?
Mm-mm.
It was the whole point of that game. Because if it was, I would probably try it on the cheap just out of curiosity. Because again, for what I saw, the gameplay looks fun. But again, at one point you have to go through the story and listen to those dialogues, and it's like, yeah, it feels incredibly forced and written by people who are not very good at their job at the end of the day, or are simply forced to put certain things just to like tick boxes. Basically, like, we have to say this, and this. Again, I'm not entering into the one piece of dialogue of that game that we all know about. It seems like it's the only thing about that game, and that's why it's bad. Not necessarily. I don't think so, because usually there are more things about a game that is just one scene that lasts 2 minutes. It's just like people criticizing Final Fantasy X because of the laughing scene, you know.
But
and
I actually have an argument for that too.
Go.
So I don't know if this is true, but I took this from somebody else. But the more I thought about it from like from a cinematography perspective, because a lot of people don't know, I actually, to pull up my GPA, I took a bunch of film classes my senior year. So like when it comes to watching films, I tend to analyze a lot. Titus's laugh is meant to be sarcastic. Like, I realize how ridiculous this all is. I know where this is going. Yeah. But right now, me being ridiculous is going to help everybody out. It's kind of like a metaphor for how ridiculous this whole journey is, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And like when you think of it like that, like, damn, they knocked it out of the park. But then when you actually hear the real story, he had one take and no context.
But it's one of those things, like, there is that scene, it's over-exaggerated on purpose, and then like 30 seconds later it laughs normally again, and it's actually a very good scene within a game, but people they took that 30 seconds, like, this is why the game is garbage. Basically, we hate Final Fantasy X because of that moment, out of context and everything. Like, look at how bad voice acting is for JRPGs and stuff like that. It's kind of the same thing, I think, for Veilguard. I'm not defending the game, I don't even play it, but I think people tend to overreact to certain things, and it's just a matter of, like, just try to play the game. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. It's fine. But the problem is that this is not only it was supposed to be a BioWare game, but it was like one of their last shots, actually, to go back into the good graces of people. Because they spent many, many years, an absurd amount of money on that game. And as you said, it was a losing effort. There's no way you can get back that kind of budget with video games these days.
Absolutely not.
Like, how can you spend, like, how much did they spend? Like, hundreds of millions of dollars?
Yeah, it was over 100 million.
What do you expect?
Yeah, and then the game is $24.99 2 months later. Like,
Yeah. So it's a losing effort. So now, like, the thing that everybody every time asks, like, what's next for Bioware? Like, because we're all terrified of the prospect, of course, of EA adding another grave, basically, to the graveyard of studios they acquired, like together with like Maxim, Origin, etc.
Oh God.
Uh, yeah,
Well, the other part of it too
and
is they came out and said, "Well, we didn't have any live service stuff."
hmm,
What? How would that? I'm pretty sure people would still harp on those particular scenes and everything else and dialogue and all that crap. I am at least 99.9% sure all that nonsense was still came up.
oh yeah,
Microtransactions ain't going to help
absolutely.
you. I'm sorry. We
No,
saw that with the Star Wars
absolutely.
Battlefront games.
No, it's just like they probably did not believe in the game the slightest. They saw that it was not selling. It's like, yeah, cut it. Let's move to the next thing. And now the only thing left is Mass Effect. So they're gonna put all their effort into the new Mass Effect game.
Which is
Obviously,
also
in
not, I don't think it could be great, but it still won't be good enough.
with the amount of hype and with the amount of like hope and dreams, basically
Yeah.
Bioware is putting on it, it will never be as good. It can only be a disappointment. I hope to be wrong, of course. I hope it would be amazing. But to be honest, like the trailer that I saw, it was not exactly super promising. I mean, it's super short. But I saw the one with the Asari climbing the mountain and look at the ship or something, and I was asking, is that Liara? So my worry is it's just for laziness, and they're gonna pick the easiest route possible, and it's just like a direct sequel to the original trilogy. And I think that would be a mistake. The only thing I can accept, like Liara being a part of the story, is like she's 700 years old or something, so it takes place centuries after the original trilogy, because that story's over. I don't need to see Shepard, Garrus, and the gang ever again. If I want to re-experience them, I just play the original trilogy.
And to go back
So
to your
we'll
point,
see what they'll do.
about like one particular moment erasing all goodwill, the journey of Mass Effect 3 is epic beyond belief.
Absolutely.
And I find it very, I'll just say, troubling that 10 minutes, we'll say, actually, no, I'll say half an hour, can erase the 40 hours of awesome. I highly
Exactly.
disagree
I
with
don't
that.
believe that. I don't believe that. How can you like ignore what happened during that game just for the again 10 20 minutes basically at the end, like the Quarian Geth War, like Battlestar Galactica, the Mass Effect edition,
I never
the
watched
whole
it.
story. It's basically that.
Oh, okay.
Or like the whole story with the Genophage and the sacrifice of Mordin. I mean, it's one of the greatest thing in gaming, basically. Like the final battle for Earth and all of that. It's just fantastic. And then if you add also the DLCs, it's like the whole Omega thing. It's a lot of fun. There is the whole thing with Leviathan, which is very interesting from a lore perspective. So I don't believe that you can say, "Oh, the game is shit," just because I don't like the last 5 minutes, and because it's not the ending I wanted.
Yeah.
So, and to go back, like it's also I for the longest time up until I played the PS4 version, I always refused to see the alternative ending because I say it's such a disrespect towards the creator of the game. Because like this is the vision they had, I respected. It's not the greatest ending I ever experienced. It's interesting. I liked it. It maybe it's not what I imagined, kind of sorta, but it's fine. But to see like it's kind of saying like I don't like how the Mona Lisa smiles. Change it, please. You know, it's those kind of situations.
Let me get my time machine. Tell, hey Leo, I need you to do some tweaks over here. I have some notes for you. Um, who do you think is we'll say, the modern age Bioware right now?
Hmm. I don't know, to be honest. Like, because I, hmm. Because again, it should be a studio with a strong emphasis on narrative. Um, and on Western studios, I don't know them very well now, so uh, I'm not sure.
I mean,
Any
personally,
suggestions?
I don't even think there is anybody, to be completely truthful.
Same. At that point, to have a studio to give us similar experiences, I haven't got anything
I
on
mean,
the same level and impact as a Mass Effect.
the closest thing I can come up with, I mean, not counting Baldur's Gate 3, of course, because that's Larian, and that's them adopting an intellectual property for the purpose of continuing a series. The only games I can think of that have very powerful dialogue trees and choices and consequences are your games like Life is Strange, like those sort of like Walking Dead,
Oh yeah, yeah.
choose your own thing. But even those are kind of formulaic. I mean, as of this recording, I just finished Life is Strange Double Exposure. I thought it was a phenomenal story, didn't overstay its welcome. The consequences, some of them honestly were nonsense, but some of them you actually see the result, and the endings are a direct impact of all those decisions plus one critical one you make at the end. And that's very much what Mass Effect and all those other games have always been when it came to their dialogue trees, because they sound like normal people. And I think it really helped, at least in Double Exposure, because Max throws out like modern day quotes, memes, and phrases. Because have you ever played Life is Strange or any of the games?
The closest thing I've played to those kind of games are what's the one with the origami thing?
Oh, Heavy Rain.
Um, Heavy Rain. I absolutely hated the controller. I played it like I was totally drunk. Like my best friend and I played together, and he was like laughing hysterically how bad I was playing the game. So I couldn't. I really couldn't enjoy it. And then we played together the whole. What's again the name of the series? The Men of Madam, Little Hope,
Oh man,
House of Ashes.
Dark
Those.
Pictures. I like those.
Yes, those. Yeah, that was fun because again, playing together like couch co-op, very old school. It's how you're supposed to play those games, and they were a lot of fun. Mainly because we were just like shitting each other, like how bad we were playing. It was amazing.
Yeah, Katie and I, we always play those games together. I mean, she likes
Yeah.
it because it reminds her of American Horror Story, and I just
Mhm.
play it because I play them just because, honestly, it's not exactly Tales from the Crypt, but it kind of reminds me of that. Or like Alfred Hitchcock presents, like, submitted for your approval. Here is a strange story about a guy stuck on a boat. Like
Yeah.
that sort of thing. And to me, that's really enjoyable. But with this latest Life is Strange, I mean, since you don't know, Max is now a visiting photography teacher at a university. And at one point, you can approach a bunch of your students, and when she walks up to them, she goes, "Hello there, my fellow kids," like Steve Buscemi from Billy Madison. And I just burst out laughing because I hadn't even thought about that phrase in so long. And then, it establishes, okay, Max is definitely like in our age category at this point, you know?
Yeah.
And I thought that was like really cool time and place. Like it's clever, but not, because it's not saying, "Ooh, look how clever I am." It's literally like somebody just messing around who happened to see that movie,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah. Exactly.
And then in the case of Veilguard, from what I've seen, it's very just not dry, but just very like, make sure you check this, make sure you phrase
Hmm.
it like that.
It
We can't
it
assume
sounds like
we
that.
can't assume everybody has the grasp of complicated stories, so let's just spell it out, you know? And I feel like to me
Yeah.
that's kind of disappointing. Which
Yeah, because you would expect better from Bioware.
yeah, which is kind of what leads me into Jade Empire here.
Let's go.
So, for this episode, we both played Jade Empire to get in the BioWare mood, to see the BioWare of yesteryear. I played it on PC because
Played on Xbox.
I wanted HD graphics. Um,
I didn't.
And I wanted to see it in 16 by 9 and all this beautiful stuff. And, that early mid 2000s, like, look
Mm-hmm.
at this beautiful open world with nothing in it. Like I wanted to see
Yeah.
all of that in its glory. So I've never played this. Have you played this at all before, or was this your first time?
No, it was my first time playing it as well. I heard about it ages ago. I was like, oh, that sounds very cool, like a sort of like martial arts RPG or something. And at that point, after Knights of the Old Republic, I knew who Bioware were. So I was like, this must be very, very interesting. So, and of course, it got lost in the backlog.
Yeah.
And this episode was the perfect chance, kind of like Dragon Age Inquisition. Like, okay, what's in my backlog? Oh, Jade Empire.
Yeah, because I originally. So, do you mind if I mention very succinctly what you do for a living? Like, you work in history.
Sure, yeah.
So, I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if we did a game that's kind of historical? And then basically he says, no, that sounds like work. We're going to play Jedi Empire instead.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, all right, fine. I got that in the backlog. And I will say, going into this game and seeing how it opened up and everything, I got heavy duty Hong Kong action movie vibes,
Mm-hmm.
which I made me kind of excited. Because, and I've said this, but I love Donnie Yen. I love like all the old Jackie Chan movies. Like Donnie Yen being in John Wick 4 was more exciting to me than John Wick 4 at all, because I think he is phenomenal. And seeing like this whole intro with like a martial arts school, that's all I could think of. So I was like super into it right from the get go. But when it came out, I didn't even know it came out. Like, I don't remember this coming out at all. It really wasn't until YouTube
Same.
that I heard about it.
It was kind of the same for me. Like back then when I had an Xbox and it was my main console, I have no idea about this game. Also because I was kind of taking a sort of a break from gaming because again the Xbox hadn't been that exciting for me after the initial hype with the games. And this got completely lost in the mist of time, basically. And only later I learned about it, and I was like, oh, this sounds very interesting, actually. Again, the potential and the idea of a martial art RPG with ideally a great narrative from BioWare got me all excited about it.
And that's where I get kind of upset. Like, I'm just going to come right out and say it. When a game literally gives you the whole premise in the first 15 minutes, I immediately tune out and I just go through motions, because, and this isn't a spoiler because it literally happens in the first 15 minutes. Your Mr. Miyagi equivalent basically says, so the time I found you alone in the rain, I discovered that you were in fact this legendary martial arts person that's part of this other sect that's actually extinct. But guess what? I've been training you this whole time to save the world. Okay. Oh, look, here's your childhood friend. She's also an orphan.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, they had no budget.
Oh no.
I was like, they had no budget for this. And I'm wondering if they made this game specifically to make enough money to make something else. Because there is a lot of lore, but a lot of it they shoehorn into conversations very casually.
Yeah.
Like that whole thing with the demons and the ghosts and everything, they kind of just like, oh, by the way, that town, you don't want to go there.
Yeah. Or the thing like you can meet a guy obviously like European inspired, like it looks like a British conquistador kind of thing, and you have to challenge him. It's kind of hilarious in a way, like, so it gives an idea of a very large world. But again, it's like, oh, by the way, this exists. It's yeah, you can tell they were on a very tight budget.
And it's very much on rails. Like, you think Final Fantasy 13 is bad? Like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
This was very much on rails.
Wait,
and I mean, honestly, I feel like I don't think that was a negative though, because I feel like they were trying to tell their story with what they had. And unfortunately, some dialogue felt very rushed, even if you went through all the options. But if they didn't do that, then you would have never gotten the whole story.
But in a way, like, to me, the whole game felt very rushed. Like, I enjoyed it for what it was. Like, even though I sound kind of sort of negative, I actually had fun with it because it's not a, to me, bad game. But again, it's like I wanted more of it because it was interesting in terms of premise, and I kind of got into the basic story and was like having fun with it. And then it's like, oh, it's over. How much did I? 19 hours? It felt like 6 months, basically. It's really short. I didn't expect it, and I did almost everything. And what about, by the way, the shooter parts of the game?
Oh, that part, that was, I don't know why that was in there, because it kind of just shows up. It's like, hey
Yeah,
guys, we
it
got a
was so
plane.
out of
I'm like,
nowhere.
awesome. I was like, this must be where I get fast travel. Okay. Okay. All right.
It was
I guess we're
so out
flying.
of nowhere.
And then I don't know if it's the same for you. On the PC version, it actually gives you an option saying you want to skip this.
Yeah, same on the Xbox.
I was like, then why
I
put it
skipped like
in?
most of them.
I was like,
Yeah,
then why
exactly.
put it
It's so
in?
strange.
Like, leave it alone. Like, you know who did those
But
scenes
then,
really well? And it's a modern game. The new Indiana Jones, man. They did that right.
really.
Oh, let me tell you. But
But then it's so interesting that actually, like, if you explore, like, in the background, there are scrolls and stuff with lore dump,
yeah,
basically. And there are so many on these flying machines, basically. The whole history of, like, the guy who developed this thing. It was like, this is fascinating. So,
but yeah, and that's the thing. Like, if you go and read the scrolls, because honestly, they highlight them. Like, you pretty much just walk up to them and then you learn everything. And then
and
some of
they
the
give you
side
experience.
quests, there's like with the town guy, do you open the dam? Do you close the dam? That
Hmm.
affects, the local economy and all that stuff. Like, okay, like these are world affecting events. Like, this is Bioware.
Yeah.
But you're also in such a contained space. You don't really see the global impact. You kind of just see the impact
Hmm.
in the immediate conversations,
Yeah.
which I guess for a succinct adventure makes sense. But this is where I had a real tough time justifying it. Did you ever watch Avatar: The Last Airbender?
The show or the
The
movie or
show, not the
both?
movie. The movie doesn't exist. The show.
Uh, Technically both, but yes, of course, I watched the show.
I think that did this story way better if you think about it.
Of course. Yeah.
And I almost wish that I forgot the guy's name went to BioWare and said make this into a game, cuz they would have killed it.
Can you imagine?
They would
Like
have
an Avatar
killed
Last
it.
Bender. Absolutely. It would have been amazing.
They would have killed it, and they don't even have you as Aang. Have you as one of the new Airbenders after the original series ended, like before Korra, and
Hmm.
which I actually liked. They would
It's not bad.
they would kill it, man,
Yeah.
and just have you
Yeah,
and
consider how well they did with Star Wars. Sorry to cut you off, just saying. To see how well they did with Star Wars in terms of like a third party property, they would have did such a good job. Absolutely.
I mean the combat in this is a little janky, but I also think it's combat for the time. But
Yeah.
if they had like by today's standards, let's say it's even like a DMC2 or a DMC3
Hmm.
combat system
Oh, so good.
with like, the hold R1 and then you can do water bending or steel bending or whatever.
Hmm.
I I can't
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
dream.
Absolutely.
I can
That would have
dream.
been
I'm like, don't give
amazing.
this to Game Mill. Give this to BioWare circa 2008 and it would have been gangbusters because this has
Yes.
Avatar written all over it. The deeper you
Absolutely.
get into the story, especially towards
Yeah.
the end.
The whole spear thing.
Yeah. Like that, no spoilers, but that whole ending bit, I was like, I've seen this before.
I've seen this before. Yeah, it sounds familiar.
It sounds very familiar. Oh, look, I get to punch this guy in the face. Just like, but yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think like I was kind of disappointed by it, but it's not disappointed due to hype. It's disappointed because I know they could have done more.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you there.
But when I finished it, I was initially like, this is the shittiest game I've ever played. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, no, you know what? Like, there's a lot of good guts in this game. And if I played this game back in the day,
I would have loved it.
without the context of Avatar The Last Airbender, I would have absolutely, this would have been a 10 out of 10 for me. Like, no joke.
Same. Yeah, because I was trying, as I sent you a picture, I was trying to have the most early 2000 kind of experiences.
Yes.
Like I played on my Xbox, I played on the Duke, which I have to be honest, it's not that bad as I remembered.
It's not.
Actually,
It's really not. I don't know why everybody makes fun of it.
Sure, it's a bit like chubby and uncomfortable at times, but it's not a bad controller. Like and I got used to it almost immediately. So, but again, the more I play the game, and it's like it gave me those like 2005 kind of vibe, and I was kind of enjoyed myself with it. But now that I think about it, yeah, like Avatar Last Airbender game by Bioware would have like absolutely killed it. But to your point, it's like if I would have played it back then when it was new, I'm sure I would have loved it. Like fresh out of Knights of the Old Republic, like to me, Bioware couldn't do no wrong, basically. And then instead of like then they did like the Sonic Chronicle RPG,
which I still want to play, even though everybody tells me not to.
I played a bit of it on DS. It's not terrible, but it's like it's so weird.
I think it's one of those things when I think about it. They killed it with Baldur's Gate, which is Dungeons and Dragons license. They killed it with Knights of the Old Republic, which is Star Wars license. I don't want to say I feel like if they have an existing property and universe, they can write around it because a lot of folks do that. And I don't mean that as like a derogatory, but Mass Effect at this point is controlled not by the studio, it's controlled by investors. And I really think you should leave it alone and go with an established IP where you as an investor will say, we want multiplayer, but then Disney will say no. And that'll be the end of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What about instead of a new Mass Effect? Imagine the news is like Bioware decides to remake Jade Empire.
I would be cautiously optimistic. I would want. I honestly, like I said, the guts in this game are really good, but the dialogue, at least in the first 3 hours, needs a lot of help because I understand, given the time constraints, they have to info dump you at the front. But that, for me, from a narrative perspective, is like the biggest turnoff. I'm like, let me figure it out. Let me learn. Don't mansplain me. Like let me figure it out.
Yeah, but imagine it like with like a decent budget, like a updated combat system, and like with an expanded story. It would be quite the game.
I think so. And then you just have to get Matt Mercer, Johnny Young Bosch, Laura Bailey, and all those other guys and gals to do voices, and they'll be perfect. Get Chris Sabat to be the villain, but just have him do Vegeta the whole time. It'll be great.
Imagine like him like doing like Gao the Lesser.
Yes, yes.
That would be amazing.
And then
greatest name ever for a villain.
And then get 45-year-old Haley Joel Osment to do his best Sora impression for added measure. But yeah, no, I mean
that's also a thing. Like with
no, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just saying, thinking about the characters out of Jade Empire, because again, some of them were potentially interesting, but again, it cut so short at times. It's like Sagacious Zoo or like all of those, like there were going somewhere, but it seems like they cut 2/3 of the game. Yeah. And all of a sudden, when like the sacrifice happened, it's like, oh well, I guess it's died because again, you didn't have the time to connect properly with those characters.
Yeah, and
which is a shame.
I really felt like the scientist who you recruiter. I already forgot his name. The one with the
Oh yeah, me
bombs.
too. But
Like I
yeah,
saw
yeah,
him and I was like, this is right out of a Saturday morning cartoon. I like him.
absolutely.
I like him.
And you know what? Another thing that I enjoyed about the game, the voice acting was good.
Oh, voice acting is phenomenal.
It was very good. That surprised me.
Everybody sold it, even though some of the dialogue I was like, but they believed it. And honestly,
Yes.
believable voice acting can make terrible dialogue sound awesome, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it
Um,
would definitely improve it.
but yeah, no, if they did that, if they did it again today, they expanded the world. And I would say not even try to take it this super duper serious route, like a Forspoken, like if they made it like graphically like an Immortals Phoenix Rising, even where it's a little cartoony, a little campy, like a little
Yeah.
hey, we're coming off of the '90s vibe, like early 2000s. I don't
Yeah,
think it would appeal to everybody, but I think it would be much more well received because the barrier of entry is a lot lower.
absolutely. And that would it would work in their favor, I think. And because, as I said earlier, I think there is so much potential into this game, and it's just not deliver enough for whatever reason. Again, budget constraints, maybe being an original IP, they didn't really know what they were doing. Perhaps, I don't know. So, but again, it was something that, imagine, like, if you just expand and perfect the combat system, you can have proper, like, different martial arts styles, kind of what we were saying, like in sort of Avatar Last Bender, but not that. And but what about, like, that you can transform into a toad or like into a ghost and all
like
of those
like
things,
Naruto.
basically.
Tojitsu. But I will say, like, this is definitely like the evolution towards Mass Effect 1 and then eventually towards
Yeah,
Mass Effect 2. Like, you can definitely feel that.
absolutely.
But did you ever hear their pitch or their, like, draft script for the second Jade Empire?
No, actually, I haven't.
So I don't know how official this is because I did this whole let me look this up after the fact because I wanted to see the other ending, which honestly, I'm not going to ask you which one, but they're pretty much the same, to say the least.
Mm.
Second one's supposed to take place like 800 years later, and it's
Oh
supposed
wow.
to be like almost cyberpunk.
Hey.
And it's basically that future is because of your decisions, the way that the empire went.
Mm.
And depending on how you did it, depends on what the city looks like, depends how everything plays out. It depends on which side you're on, and it plays out kind of like the Matrix.
Hey.
So very weird and experimental. So
Yeah.
like it's one of those things I'm like, ooh, I'm intrigued, and I'm like, I'm
Mm-mm.
I'm kind of happy they just stuck with this one,
Yes,
because I
to be
feel like,
honest.
and that's where I appreciate, like I said, creativity to me is paramount, but sometimes you can get carried away, and it sounded like they were
Mhm.
getting carried away a bit, you know.
Yeah, but to be honest, probably that was just like a draft or something.
Yeah, I don't
Eventually,
know how
maybe
many
they would have
drafts it
got
went through.
something good. Yeah, exactly. Because it sounds a very early draft to me, to be honest. Like cyberpunk and all of that.
Cyberpunk,
But
ninja, mysticism.
yeah,
I don't
so
know.
you see, it's
I mean, it was
some
basically
just it
Ninja
seems like
Gaiden, if you think about it.
kinda. That's true. Oh yeah, man, that was an awesome game for the Xbox, Ninja Gaiden. I loved it
I
as a kid.
I just finished Sigma recently, having never
Ooh.
played it before. I will say though,
I want to get back into the Ninja Gaidens.
well, after this announcement of the new one, I'm actually planning to go through the trilogy before the fourth one comes out.
Mm.
Um,
Oh, that's cool.
but I will say this about Sigma though, as hard as that game is, you can break it very easily for the boss fights just by setting your Nimpo. Like if you do like certain bosses, you just do like the firewall and just run directly into them in their blind spot. You'll do damage to them and they can't hurt you. Like literally the last boss, I didn't even fight him. I just stood there and just moved left to
Oh
right
wow.
really fast, and he couldn't touch me because I was in a dead zone. And I found that by
Yeah,
mistake. I didn't look it up. And even my wife was like,
that's
wow,
awesome though.
that was very anticlimactic as the crisis started playing. I was like, no, I found a glitch. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I think if I had played this back in the day, I think I would have enjoyed Jade Empire more. Coming off of this, I really didn't like it, but the more I think about it, it is a good game. I just think it's time wasn't kind to it. I don't think.
It really didn't age very well for certain elements. But again, it's same for me. Like if I would have played back then, I would have loved it. I'm pretty sure of it. Because it was so different from the typical RPGs I was playing at the time. Like maybe I had the experience of Knights of the Old Republic, but I was still like, oh, I need my JRPG and stuff. And then playing this again, martial art inspired game is like so different, so cool, so unique.
Do you think, and let's just say Bioware is not in the state it is today, do you think they could successfully make a JRPG style game?
Mm, I don't know. Maybe. Because at the end of the day, to me, a JRPG is primarily a narrative experience, and traditionally, they've been very good at that up until recently. Uh, the different in gameplay, it's you can work around with that because you can make it turn-based or action or whatever. So potentially yes, because they can nail, I think, the good part of the JRPG, which to me it's always been like characters and story.
Yeah.
Like gameplay is secondary to me in that regard. So probably I wouldn't surprise. But again, it's thinking about it, it's kind of those experiments with like Western or Japanese studios like dipping their toes in the different genres. Say Capcom working on Dragon's Dogma, which is more of a Western RPG kind of thing. And I actually really enjoyed it. But again, primarily from a story point of view, especially the final third of the story, when he got into like the final battle against the dragon and the consequences of that, I thought that was phenomenal. So if you have good people working on it with some good ideas, I think yeah, they can absolutely do it. Because at the end of the day, it's just about themes in a story. So you have to think of those archetypical JRPG themes and just have the final battle against God, and you got it.
That's every JRPG. You go up, you
Exactly.
punch God in the face, you get everybody says a motivating thing, then you fight a boss for
Mm-hmm.
4 hours, and then you get
Yep.
credits.
Because I think we mentioned it. I don't remember if it was the two of us or something, or it was Fox maybe. That we mentioned the final battle in Legend of Dragoon, which I still remember.
Yeah.
It's like because it was I think like 2 hours long, literally. Like the thing I always say about it to express how big this battle is, like the dude has 4 different themes. That gives you an idea.
Why? Did you didn't play Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth yet, did you?
No, I haven't played Final Fantasy VII since the PlayStation 1.
Oh, well, if you ever do eventually get to Rebirth, there are checkpoints during the final boss fight.
Oh my goodness.
I'll be honest, it is epic, it is cinematic, it is such a spectacle to watch. But when you die on the last phase and you have to watch all that again,
Uh-huh.
I am sorry, man. Like that's where I think having overly dramatic boss fights like that without like a good like checkpointy system work against it because now the impact gets less, and now it gets more
Yeah.
annoying. And I feel like at least with Bioware, they know when to shut up when it comes to their final boss fights. So we'll leave it
Oh
at
yeah,
that.
absolutely.
But I do have one more question for you. Top Bioware game moment.
I'll probably be very obvious. I'd say Mass Effect 3, the whole Genophage. Like the end of the Genophage story, it's in general one of my favorite gaming moments. So easily to me it's the best they've done.
So I have two. Uh, for Mass Effect, it's the suicide mission. That whole bit,
Hmm.
the lead up, the
That's so
setup,
cool.
the execution, phenomenal. And then, but my absolute number one is fighting the dragon in Dragon Age Origins with my
Mm.
team. And usually, I mean, this point, because I'm an old man, I usually play wizards and sorcerers and stuff like that because I like to be in the back and I like to crowd control. Like, that's my thing. But at the time of Final Fantasy 11, I was super into tanking, and fighting dragons is like in any game is always my favorite thing. Like it's like a joke with my wife. I'm like, all dragons must die. You know, like that. That's just how it goes. Even in Metaphor ReFantasio, I would not continue with the game until I beat all those dragons. I refused, and I did out of spite. But in that game, playing
Have
as
you?
a paladin, I got to tank it too. So that made it even more exciting for me because even in Final Fantasy 11, tanking dragons was like my favorite thing. So this was, I was like, this is my game. This, I had my perfect party. I had Morrigan with me. I was like, this is all I need. This is like my perfect setup. And it was
Yeah.
probably one of the most thrilling experiences I ever had in gaming up until that point.
It's funny, like speaking Dragon, like since I mentioned it earlier, have you played Dragon's Dogma?
I did not care for it. As
You should try because like the final battle, it's something. It's epic against the dragon. So.
I think I dropped it, I think 6 hours in
Hmm.
because I feel like it's not that, I don't want to say it's too open world. I just felt, I think the pawn system, it's weird because usually, like, when I have a blank slate party, it doesn't bother
Hmm.
me. But in that game, for whatever reason, it was really bugging me because
Though there is a
I
cool
come up with my own
twist.
stories, you know. So
Hmm. There is a cool twist with the pawn at the end, though. It's worth it. If you have the patience to play through the game, it's worth it. Like the final battle with the dragon, it's phenomenal. And then what happened next? That's when the game really starts.
did you? How did? What class did you play, or what archetype did you play as?
I used a sort of like rogue type thing,
Okay,
with two knives kind of thing. It's kind of a class that I always enjoy.
speed.
And yes, exactly. While my pawn was more like a heavy fighter, tanky kind of thing.
Yeah, in Final Fantasy 11, before I was a paladin, I was a thief full time. Like thief and ranger,
Hmm.
those were always my go tos. But then I discovered tanking, and I like sticking my chin at stuff and going, break that, I dare you. Um, that to me was just always so much fun. But now, like in a lot of games, like even in, did you beat the dragons in Metaphor or no?
I haven't played Metaphor.
I thought you did.
Because, no, because again, I don't have a PS5,
Why did I
and
think you played
in
Metaphor?
in here they didn't release the game on PS4, so I skip it for now. And
Okay, well, when you
I'm
get to it, there's some dragon fights. I highly recommend you do them. They are epic, and they will
I'm
make you
sure
think.
they will re-release the game on the Switch too whenever that's out.
Oh no,
So I'll
we're
wait for
not
that.
that kind of show. We don't talk about propaganda known as the Switch 2. Although I am hoping is more powerful. Like I really do. Because I
It
mean,
should
I
be.
love the
Come on.
PlayStation Portable, but some stuff I want to take it out of the house and not rely on public Wi-Fi. So it is what it is. But anyway, yeah, no, this was fun. Thank you so much for staying up and, and coming on the show. I do want to ask you three things you love about this hobby besides actually playing video games, and then we'll get the hell out of here.
Okay. Well, first thing first, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun catching up with you, Alex. And three things that I love about gaming. Well, the first thing would be pretty obvious, since I've mentioned it or hinted it throughout the whole conversation we had, and it's the narrative experience. Like, gaming to me, like, the moment I really got into the hobby was primarily during the PlayStation 1 days, and it's when I discovered that video games can have amazing stories, they can have enduring characters. And that was a revelation to me because up until that moment, I only played games because they were fun. Of course, I enjoyed it from like the first time I played games. I think I was still in kindergarten or something, and I played the European version of Contra, and I had a lot of fun. But again, there was no real. I wasn't really invested into things. But then I played games like Breath of Fire 3, Legend of Dragoon, Final Fantasy, and I was like, "Well, this is a different thing." And I've been hooked to that since to this day, basically. And what I always wanted, it's that narrative hook and great characters and amazing stories. So that's probably the thing I love the most about the hobby. It's that they can give you fantastic stories. Uh, a second thing, uh, this might sound a bit weird and cheesy, maybe, but I've always liked it because I always considered like my hobby in a way
Mm-hmm.
because in my household I'm the only one who likes video game. Like for example, my brother has always hated video games. He thinks they're a massive waste of my time. And basically my first console was the NES because he gave me his NES. Like he received it for his birthday. He couldn't care less. I said, "Yeah, you can have this thing. I don't care." And to me, it was like the most incredible thing ever. It's like, oh my god, I can play Mega Man 2. And so I always saw it as my thing, something that I did on my own. Because, for example, I love watching movies. Like, basic example. But it's something that we all love here. Like, my brother and I always watch movies together, we commented them, etc. Or I always love music, so I can talk with my father about it or with some friends. But with games, has always been a more personal experience to me, and it's also like again, it's something that you can share, and that's what's my third element. Again, maybe it's an obvious answer, but it's the community aspect of games. It's that we are able to do something like this and nerd out for hours about Bioware. It's something that I love about the hobby because you can find like-minded people to share your experiences and what you like, you don't like about a game, and it's something very, very nice, and it's something that, in a way, only games can provide. I think so. I would probably say these are my answers.
Yeah, and I think like touching your point about games and discussion community in this hobby, it is very different. It's like I'll use Marvel movies only because I'm exhausted with them at this point. Like every time one comes out, I'm just like, okay, I'll just read a synopsis. I don't have 3 hours to kill. Yet I am perfectly cool with playing a 40-hour JRPG because
Yeah.
I am invested in these characters or this particular franchise. I love Spider-Man. I will always watch the Spider-Man movies the minute they come out. I don't care which Spider-Man it is. Toby's my personal favorite, but I don't care which Spider-Man it is, right? Craven, my wife is watching in the other room. Spider-Man villain, no interest. Madam Web, no interest. Like it's just I feel like I don't necessarily need to consume all the media. Yet when Atlas is like, "Hey, we're working on this wacky Persona spinoff," I'll look at it, and then I'll be like,
Yeah.
"It's not really my thing." And then next thing I know, so I got Persona 5 Tactica, even though, like, because I know part of it is going to appeal to me, even if as a whole I'm not all about it. I think, and I think that's where this hobby, because it touches on a lot of different sensory points. I feel, as opposed to cinema, for example.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why I've played all Legend of Heroes games, for example, because I'm invested. I like this massive overarching story. I love those characters, etc. So to me, that's probably the most important thing about gaming and what I expect to get the most out of it.
Were you relieved that they have finally said that the Daybreak trilogy is a new starting point? Were you relieved by that?
I wouldn't say relieved. Like I was always expecting them to move into that part of the world, and I would say Falcom is desperately trying to finish this story, primarily because they have a lot of backlash in Japan of
Yeah.
how big it is. I think Japanese fans are exhausted by this. Say you have to stop doing these
Just
games.
like us with Marvel
So, in
movies.
fact,
We're
yeah, kinda. Absolutely. And to think that the next Daybreak game is going to be the beginning of the end of Trails, it's kind of like bittersweet to think that. Because like I've been with the series since the beginning. I remember playing Trails in the Sky on the PSP,
yeah.
and now to see like that they starting to wrap up this entire thing that I kind of grew up with, even though I was already an adult by then. But that's irrelevant. It's something that you would expect only, I don't know, huge series in movies or books to do it, but you can get these amazing experiences and journeys through video games, and they're even better in a way at times because they're more interactive. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, for example, in Mass Effect, it's your story. Like, even though I played with a female shepherd, for example, but I was like super attached to that character and the interaction I created with those other crew members. For example, like the love story between female shepherd and Garrus was phenomenal, for
Well,
example. I
that you're
absolutely
cheating though.
loved
It's
it.
Jennifer Hale. She kills everything. Come on.
Absolutely. My goodness, the end, like those end dialogues in Mass Effect 3, like I was choking basically, like the emotions out of there. It's something that you would expect only out of like big budget movies, but there you go. In a pixelated characters from a video game, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
I dare say that. I mean, now with motion capture though, like the way like now that they can actually do the right facial expressions, like you see that in the Dark Pictures trilogy, as opposed to doing like the face. Like I feel like doing that motion capture now, and now actors are actually being and voice actors are being trained in motion capture as part of the craft. I think it can only
Mm,
get better, honestly.
absolutely. Absolutely. No, sky's the limit with how technology is progressive and gaming is advances as well. Like, as much as I love old games, I also very excited about new games. I've never been a kind of guy who's like retro forever, now never, basically. Even
Forever.
though I love, yeah, exactly. Even though I love both of them in a way. Like I love my nostalgia experiences of like playing something like Dragon Age was an absolute blast because you can tell this is a game from 20 years ago, but it had so much charm to me because of it. Even though at times it looked terrible, but it was so much fun because of it, if it makes sense.
Yeah, and again, like going back to Jade Empire quickly, it also reminded me of that instance in being that kid in college in his dorm room and him introducing me to KOTOR. Like I could I could imagine having that same introductory conversation with him playing that game in the background. Even though it didn't take place that time, you could have interchanged them, and I probably would have had the same effect on me. So awesome. All right, my man. I think that's going to do it for today. Once more, when you do decide to come back from your hiatus, where can everybody find you on the YouTube?
On my channel, FabryLON, you can, and it's the only way to find me because again, I don't use too many social medias, but the channel is still there. I haven't deleted any video or anything, so if you're curious, check it out. I made quite some videos, and some of them are pretty decent, I dare say. So always happy to interact with people, comments, and everything. So you can find me there on the YouTube machine.
The YouTube machine. Awesome. All right. So this has been Video Games Gaiden. Everybody, thank you for watching, listening, and we'll catch you in the next one. Take care.